That was a tough one. Give Tampa a ton of credit. They came in and they whooped us in every phase. Outcoached us, outplayed us, and it's disappointing. I know the guys in the locker room are disappointed. A lot of time and effort goes into this thing, but ultimately, we got to play better. We got to coach better.
Now, what happened on defense? What did they do to you?
Well, they got a lot of explosion plays, and looking at the drive chart here, not a lot of stops. We had the 1 3 and out. They fumbled one time, and every other possession ended up in points. So it's going to be tough to win a football game when that happens.
What's the defensive game plan when Godwin's being matched up against linebackers for a lot of the time?
Well, it just all depends on the coverage, right? When you're in shell defense, that happens. Matter of fact, we had one of our receivers matched up on an outside linebacker, and we didn't win on the play. We didn't win on the route. We were playing quarters coverage. We ran a lookie route. The linebacker did a great job of taking the air out of it. So it's not like an anomaly. This happens all the time. But we got to play things better and we got to coach it better. Bottom line.
Earlier in the season, you had some games where stopping the run was an issue. Last couple of weeks, you've been hit by the passing game. What does it tell you when, if it's not one thing, it's another that's hurting you?
Yeah, they're I mean, they're beating us. I mean, they're out coaching us, they're out scheming us, and out playing us ultimately. So typically, if you want to take one of the things away, you typically can do that. And unfortunately, I think it all stems though when you do have trouble stopping the run and you start committing more people. It leaves you exposed on the back end, and that's why I think you gotta play that game in terms of trying to guess when it's going to be run and pass, and call the appropriate defense, whatever it may be, and But again, give credit to Tampa; they got some really good players. Baker went out and shredded us, and it's disappointing, obviously, because we sacked him 5 times, and ultimately that still wasn't enough. And there were some situations where we got them in 3rd and long, they throw a screen, get a first down. The possession right before the end of the half was extremely disappointing. Was it 2nd and 29 or whatever, and they get a big explosion play. That leads to points. So, got to go back and take a look at it and find out why that exactly happened. But ultimately, it wasn't good enough.
Matt, they seem to have a pretty easy time against zone, just from the looks of it. Would you have liked to see some different calls in terms of your coverages?
Yeah, it's 2020. Absolutely. We got a challenge much better, I'd say, in the back end in terms of, I get it, they got some good wideouts. But you gotta be willing to challenge, especially if you're getting gashed, just changing it up, and I'll go back and take a peek at it right after we're done here.
Matt, would you ever consider an in-season change at coordinator?
Now's not the time for that, to be honest with you.
Why is that?
Because now's not the time. I'm trying to find solutions, and I got to go back and take a look at the film.
Matt, what did you think of what you guys did offensively, at least early, and then kind of what happened towards the end?
Yeah, it was pretty inconsistent, I'd say. I thought, we got down in the red area and weren't good enough, and give Tampa a lot of credit. They're very good down there. They're one of the top in the league, and we knew that. We knew we were going to have to score touchdowns and not kick field goals, and they kept us out of the end zone quite a bit. We overcame the 1 3rd and a mile. Jordan and Jaden made a great off-schedule play for the touchdown, but disappointed. Thought we kind of got away from the run a little bit too much in the second half. It was working early on. Just got away from it, and put us in some bad spots, put our quarterback at risk. Give Tampa a lot of credit. They all outed us a couple times, and we didn't have the appropriate answers. So that falls on me 100%. Just got to make sure that we have better answers for our guys.
How
You decided to go for it on 4th and 2 in your first possession of the game. What led to going for it instead of taking the points early on?
Well, that's just typically our philosophy, you know. When you're in a situation there, we're going to be aggressive. And although it didn't work out, you could argue it did work out because they turned the ball over and we ended up scoring. And that's just philosophically, we believe that in being aggressive down there, especially when it's manageable situations. I want to say we had another 4th and 5 where we kicked the field goal. But when it's 4th and short, I would say generally we're going to probably go for it if we're, you know, inside the 10-yard line. And with the hope that worst case scenario, you can hold them, get the ball back, and you're still in pretty good scoring range. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's just what we believe.
What was the thinking with going with Stokes right off the bat there after coming up by our?
Well, he's been practicing for a few weeks. Felt like he was ready to go.
I realize you got to watch
I
the
gotta watch the tape.
I know Valentine replaced him at one point. Was that just kind of a snap count?
Yeah, I think you know, you just, it takes a minute to get in football shape, no matter how much you practice. So I think he was kind of feeling the effects a little bit, and so we put Corey in there. He did a nice job communicating with us, though, I'd tell you, and we knew that could be the case in this game.
Do you have any concerns that Joe Barry could be losing his guys a little bit, and is this solvable in the last 3 weeks of the season?
All I know is this: we got 3 weeks left. We got 3 games, and I mean every game's a playoff mentality, and who knows what will happen, but and we can't get it all back at once. You got to earn it every day. We got to get back to practice and just give it our best shot from here on out.
What's your level of concern? I think on the Evans touchdown down the seam early, it looked like Stokes thought he had help, and Ford saw some guys running into the corner and came over late and helped.
Yeah, I mean, it's all concerning, right? When it looks like there's some confusion going on back there, because you got to be so coordinated and so in tune, really on all 3 levels. Every guy plays off one another, and when there's any type of miscommunication, you can get gashed, and you know that's what happened. I mean, they have 22 completions for 381 yards. I mean, that's not good enough.
There's another one where I think it was the last touchdown
Yeah,
where Ford's yelling at Jonathan Ford, trying to give him a...
Again, miscommunication. I think J.O. knew he had the post, and he was disguising. And those guys got to be in lockstep. You got to have guys and trust that, hey, he knows his responsibility and he's going to get there. So, again, I got to go back and look at it, talk to Joe and our defensive staff and figure out why that happened.
It would seem you've got a bunch of good players on defense. Why do you think it just hasn't added up, whether it's run defense past weeks, pass defense this week?
Again, I'm going to go back and take a look at the tape. I think it's just, you got to give me time to go back and look at it.
Not just this game per se, but the last several.
I'm just going to go back and look at the tape, Bill. Thank you.
It's pretty clear, you know, week to week you get good performance from Love, you know, every once in a while your offense shows some stuff. And then you get this defensive performance, but you're in charge of that too. So how do you balance that you know, you can't get that defensive part of it turned around?
Yeah, that's always, I think that's always a challenge for anybody that's a play caller, whatever side you're on. But ultimately, you got to find a way to do it. And ultimately, I'm responsible for all this. So I take full responsibility for that, that we haven't found solutions that are good enough, in particular in a game of this magnitude, because we all know kind of what's at stake at this time of the year. You know, I'm proud of the guys in terms of our ability to kind of fight our way back into this thing, but obviously very disappointed with the outcomes of the last 2 weeks. And, you know, I'm not trying to take credit from anybody. Tampa just flat out whipped us today. So, again, give their coaches, their players a ton of credit, but I've got to be better.
2 more, please. Matt, I totally understand what you're trying to do with your answers when we keep asking defensive questions. When you say that you have to look at the film, are you saying you have to look at it to decide how you can fix things, or you have to look at it to evaluate whether or not you want to keep your staff the way it is?
Right now, we're looking for solutions. So I want to go back to it, and as soon as we leave here, I'm going to go right into my office and get to work on that. Because, like I said, it's extremely disappointing to have a home game against a team that's right in the thick of it in their division. When you're holding on to one of those spots, and you get kind of manhandled in the second half of a tight ball game. I mean, it's extremely disappointing.
You mentioned getting away from the run. Aaron Jones had, I think, 8 carries on the opening drive, and then he finished with 13 total carries. Was that a function of you getting away from the run as a play caller, or were you trying to kind of figure out at bursts to have him play?
Yeah, it was a little bit. I would say both. We all know the type of competitor he is, and how tough he is. That's evident. I think a lot of guys wouldn't even been out there today, quite honestly. It's just he means a lot to this football team. This football team means a lot to him, and he is the ultimate competitor. So I applaud his effort, because we know he's fighting through it, and he is as gritty and as tough as anybody in that locker room. And so I've got so much respect for him as a player, as a human, as a man, and what he means to us. And but it was good to see him out there. I think he did give us a boost, no doubt about it. Just his presence on the field. But I wish, that's on me for not giving him more opportunities late, especially in the second half.
You're coaching, you're calling plays and everything. Can you get a feel for, the players, the defensive players, and what, their state of mind is in this situation, whether they're accepting what's being called, whether they're confused, whether they're, down on anything? Can you tell that during the game, or is that all right?
Yeah, I try to stay in tune with that as best I can, and sometimes they're a little bit more challenging than others. I would say, especially when you're on the offense side, making adjustments or getting ready for another drive. But I mean, it doesn't matter. You got to do it, and you got to find a way to do it, and that's why it's important that we're efficient with our communication on the offense side, so I can click back over. Try to get the pulse of everybody down there, try to offer suggestions if you see something. But yeah, obviously today didn't do a good enough job.